Hello everyone. What's going on YouTube? How are you guys doing today? Should be live for the return of EDM Tips Feedback Friday. How's everyone doing today? Got the chat pulled up. See, we got a good group of people already waiting. Guys, I'm so stoked. It's been now 2 weeks off since we last had our most recent live Feedback Friday thread. I have been itching to get back at it, but let me tell you, my vacation was awesome. It was nice to just kind of step away from the studio for a week, see some old friends, see some old family. I think especially coming out of COVID, I kind of came to the realization that it had been like 3 years since I've seen a lot of my old friends. So, it was nice to just get out there, rekindle some old friendships, just kind of step away, reset my ears. But yes, I absolutely 100% did miss you guys, Sanctuary. I am so stoked to be back. Like, one of the first things that I did when I came home was come back down, get my computer locked into the studio, and just sit down and listen again. I noticed that there were like a couple of weird things off with my studio, so I made some tweaks, improved the kind of sonic environment a little bit more, and I'm just back at it again with this renewed energy, not only, for my own work, but also, to be working with you guys through the Academy, checking out your tracks, and then I know that we've got a lot of just fun stuff coming up in the next few months. So just kind of stay tuned. We're going to be having a lot of fun, keep giving you guys new content, making it more and more valuable. But, that's not why we're here today. Today, we are here for the live Feedback Friday session. So I'm guessing most of you guys are already familiar with this because I am seeing a lot of familiar names. But for the folks that are tuning in for the first time, I want to give you a huge warm welcome to the stream. Once a week on Friday at this time, we are going to be joining you live to review your tracks submitted in the EDM Tips Academy Facebook group. Now, if you're not part of that Facebook group and you want to be, all that you need to do to join is, enroll in one of the courses, which you can find more information about in the links below in this YouTube video. So check those out if it's something you're interested in. Every once in a while, I'll also be taking some live submissions from the chat directly. Today, though, I think, we are going to keep it directly within the Academy just because it is the first time coming back. I want to make sure that those of you guys who have been waiting, haven't been waiting for nothing. So I am super stoked to get back at it. Jack, the hat is gone along with the new haircut. So prior to my vacation and seeing my mother, I decided it'd probably be better if I didn't look quite as homeless as I did going into it. So I can finally display the top half of my head again. Luckily going to cut down on some Wi-Fi interference, as you know, Jack. So that's all great. Guys, with that, let's go ahead and just dive in. Let's get things started here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over and share my screen. Again, for the new folks that are tuning in for the first time, this is that EDM Tips Academy Facebook group. You can see that we're getting really close to 1,000 people, and I just absolutely love the activity in here. So every week we have a Feedback Friday thread go up in the group, and it gives you a chance to submit your tracks, get some feedback from some other students in the group. And then, of course, it also makes you eligible for these live feedbacks every Friday. So definitely check that out. If you're interested in learning more about it, feel free to ping either Will or myself an email. Again, you can also learn a little bit more information at the links below in the comment section of this YouTube stream. So with that, guys, you can see we've got a decent number of tracks to get through today. I'm going to do my best to make it as far as we can, but we'll see what we got. We've got a lot of returning folks and a few new ones. It's been now, I think, 3 weeks since I heard any of your music, guys, so I am just beyond stoked. With that, let's go ahead and kick it off. Up first, we have Hillier 22 with Interception. I believe this is Rob, who I did see in the chat. So, guys, if you are in the chat, your track comes up and there's a certain moment you want me to play, just drop that timestamp in there and I will skip ahead to it. Otherwise, I'll just be playing from the beginning. We'll be listening to about, anywhere from 1 minute to 2 minutes of the track. I'll be dropping my comments. As you guys think of things, please, drop those suggestions in the chat. Like I said, a lot of the folks that are watching here have their actual songs that are coming up. So it's, going to be super useful for everyone if you do that. So guys, with that, I won't delay anymore. Let's go ahead and see what we've got with Interception. Awesome stereo field right from the start. Way to get those basses nice and wide. I do think you might benefit from a little bit more reverb or delay just to increase that sense of depth and space in this track. And really nice atmosphere coming in. Bring that up in volume a little bit more so there's just a little bit more presence on it. Really strong groove going throughout this. Like everything's very much locked in together. And then let's see what that that little drum turnaround that you're talking about at 3:15. So let me go ahead and jump ahead and see what we've got going on there.
Interception. Interception.
Okay, guys, I am live again. If this works, awesome. We're going to go ahead and keep it going. If it's not, I think I'm going to take those suggestions in the chat and just go ahead and record my own little feedback session on video and then go ahead and just upload that later. But am I back? Can I get a conversation? Oh, and I am back. Okay, cool. So let's run with this, see as long as it works. If it drops out again, then, you know, we'll kind of tweak it from there. But yeah, it looks like we did get it, so with that, I'll go ahead and jump back in. So yes, we are still on this first track. I'm going to go ahead and reiterate my feedback for Robert here because I'm guessing pretty much everyone missed it. So as a whole, the groove of this track is exactly where it needs to be. I think your percussion works really well. Your sonic choices all fit together really, really well. But like you're saying, there is something that's not quite right. Something isn't quite there. And I think the biggest thing for this is the degree of atmospheres. So I think that what we should do is bring up a lot more volume of your existing content, and then every once in a while add another layer in there, like some sort of tonal background layer. Like it could be, a bar being hit. It could be like a string instrument. It's kind of up to you. But we want something that's going to be a little bit further back, still give us that kind of distance in that atmosphere, but add that new sonic texture that isn't quite in there. Because right now, when I'm listening to this, most of the mix is dominated by that percussion. And to keep it interesting for a full arrangement, on top of that percussion, we need that background to be coming in and out a little bit more. Awesome. Okay, guys, well, thanks for bearing with me as we got that little first issue sorted out, but it looks like we are rolling here, so I'm going to keep it going. Up next, we've got John O'Hado. I'm seeing you right in the chat here, so of course, let me know if there's a moment you want me to play from. I did see your comment, so I've picked up this other track that you were working on here. I'll go ahead and play it, and then we'll dive in from there. Very nice textures here. So the textures and the groove of your drums are working fairly well, but I'm getting just a little bit of a dragging feeling coming from those percussion. So try jumping into the percussion layers and nudging them forward in the beat just a little bit to help pick up that pace. So another big thing that I'm noticing, so that big impact, that stab that you've got, has a decent amount of white noise and high-end kind of like noise to it. And as a result, it's just creating a little bit of competition with those hi-hats. It's not enough that, you can't hear it either, like it's all super clear. It's mostly just that, because it's playing like that, we don't get that top to down differentiation that we might want, between those drums and those atmospheres. So try taking out just a little bit of the noise from those impacts.
The pain that won't leave you, I'll do all I can. I'm sorry that you feel this way. I think I understand, but
the attack of these pianos is really nice, but I'd like a little bit more mid-range to stay sustained. So try a mid-range EQ boost in there, maybe some multi-band compression to maintain that mid-range body as the sound fades out. Awesome groove right here. This is a really cool moment. I really want to see what's going to happen with this drop here, so let's listen all the way through that. I'd say on top of what you've got, maybe some background riser textures would also help out here. Maybe like a sustained, just drone note. Awesome. Okay, so this groove is really, really solid. I think the biggest thing from that drop, like you said, it wasn't quite there. We just need more energy in the hi-hat. So bring out a lot of saturation, some extra volume on those drums, and really get those drums to be smacking us at this moment. Awesome, guys. Let's give it up for Jono. I think, despite being an unfinished track, the core of this is working really, really well. I think that once you do get the mixing kind of finished up, you get a little bit more body to that mid-range, a little bit more high-end power and sizzle in that drop and stuff. You're going to be in such a great spot. All right, so let's give it up for Jono here with You're Not Alone. Up next, we've got Red Lagoon with Auckland Sunset here. So let's see what we got. Very nice groove with the drums in this, this drum and bass pattern. The first thing that I'm noticing is that like all of our instrumentation, like that kind of chord layer and all of our drums are living in this like upper band, and we're not really getting that kind of low mid-range as focused as we need to. So I would either find some drum samples that sit a little lower, or take those atmospheres and make those a little bit lower so that we have a differentiation in the space of our drums in those atmospheres. Really cool vibe at this moment. I think all of those harmonic elements need a lot more volume to stand out, and that I also get a lot of stereo width in those. Like, this is the atmospheric kind of new section of the track, and if we get those elements really wide, not only is it going to help enhance that vibe, but it'll also allow a little more space in the center for that vocal. I would also say I'd bring up the volume of your kick a little bit. Like, that snare is sitting really nice, but I'm not really hearing the kick and some of the other percussion as much as I want to be. Yeah, lots of volume and saturation on that bass in particular. I think we need a lot of power coming from that layer. Really love the panning and the effect that you got going on with that vocal, that higher. Like, this all sounds really, really nice vibe-wise here. Awesome. Let's give it up for Red Lagoon with Auckland Sunset. I think, the groove, the vibe of this are just off the charts. The next step in really getting this one to work is create more differentiation in the frequency content of your various layers. Because like I said, they are all kind of living in this like upper mid-range band. All right. Up next, we've got Silver Fox with 5. So guys, I'm gonna just kind of keep this going. If at any point anyone's got any questions, again, if your track comes up and you want me to play a certain point, please do. But yeah, given that little bit of a hiccup near the start of the stream, I'm gonna just keep this moving as fast as I can. All right, so with 5 here with Silver Fox, let's see what we got. I would love like a little bit of an atmosphere, whether it's like a vinyl noise, some sort of Foley, just something to help give us a little more texture on top because of how pure your like fundamental frequencies are already. Really like compelling arrangement right here. Like, I'm very hooked. I think what I would like to hear during that whole section is just like a little bit more brightness, saturation, and presence on those sounds. If they're gonna be the only thing that plays there, they need to be super full and super loud. So just make sure that you've got them up to the same level of power that the rest of the mix has when they are playing by themselves. Yeah, I also agree with Jono, maybe some transition effects would help out. Awesome groove here. Love the pattern of your drums. So the big thing that I'm noticing is all of your elements are living in their own space, which is really, really nice. Like, I can hear this mix really clearly. The thing that I'm missing on is that it doesn't necessarily sound like each one of these elements is in the same sense of space. So like, you know, there's a little bit of separation where each element is kind of living. And like I said, like they're, you know, the hi-hats are here, the synths are here, the kick is here. They sound kind of like they're in some different rooms. So see if you can enhance a little bit more glue among your elements with some additional room reverb. Getting a suggestion from John that the sub bass is a little bit muddy. I would agree that there is a little bit of rumble there. You know, I don't know if that's detrimental or not to the vibe. I think that as you fill out the rest of the mix, it's something that you're going to want to be paying attention to. So that little bit of muddiness in the sub can be nice if you're wanting to create this really kind of washy feeling, but that's also going to be, you know, reliant upon you using a little bit more reverb in the high-end elements to match that. If you're wanting something to be a little bit cleaner, then yes, I would dive into that sub bass and see if you can clean it up, make it just a little bit simpler, maybe a little bit less, you know, of a intense waveform on it, or less processing, whatever you've got going on down there. Awesome. All right, so let's give it up for Silver Fox with 5 here. Really stellar vibe, awesome groove. Up next, we've got Sanctuary Sky with Oceano Pressure. So I know that you're, you know, right here in the chat, so of course let me know if there's a moment you want me to play, and otherwise, let's see what we got. Ooh, very nice energy, very nice drive. This definitely gives me like those big like warehouse rave sort of feelings. Like nailed the vibe and the groove here. And that kick is super punchy. Great job with that. Oh, Mike is dead now? Okay. Is Mike dead for everyone? Can anyone else hear me? Is my mic indeed cut? Up, down, maybe no. Okay, no, people can hear me still. So, okay, so I'm seeing, you know, produce season there. Try just refreshing it maybe if you can't quite hear me. Cool. All right, awesome. Thanks very much. Cool, so okay, I'm gonna go ahead and keep on playing this here. So one thing I am noticing here before I get back into it is that I am hearing a decent amount of noise and reverby texture coming from those synths. And while that's doing a really great job of giving us that huge kind of warehouse ravey sort of feel, it is creating just a little bit of competition with your hi-hats. So you've got a couple of solutions here. You could either reduce a little bit of that reverb, which I think you've got the bandwidth to do. It would be fine if you took that down maybe like 10 to 15% or so, or just a few decibels on the reverb channel. Alternatively, what you could do is on your reverb channel, set up some side chaining to your hi-hats so that when those hi-hats are playing, there is just that really brief and subtle ducking in that reverb that allows the crisp and the high end of those hi-hats to cut through. All right, let's see what else we got. I think Jono mentioned that those vocals might be in the wrong key, and I think I am hearing a little bit of conflict there, so try repitching those, see if you can get a little bit more alignment out of them. Well, that vocal's fine, so it was really just like the ad-lib that played a second ago. And actually the harmony layers, so the lead vocal itself is in key, it's the harmony layers that start to go out of key occasionally. Yeah, like right in there, that vocal is out of key there. Awesome. Okay, so really nice, powerful drop in there. For the most part, really, really solid tones. There was one note that was playing in that like kind of higher end ARP-like layer that seemed to cause a little bit of conflict. So just double check your MIDI information right there, but it was really just that one note, and otherwise everything else was working really nicely. So guys, let's give it up here for Sanctuary Sky with Oceano Pressure here. Up next, we've got TGE Sound Labs with I'm Serious. I'm like 99% certain this is a first-time submission here, so welcome to Feedback Friday. Mr. TGE Sound Labs here. I'm stoked to see what you've got here with I'm Serious. Nice groove, great sonic identity from the start. So one other way that you can enhance the groove and the rhythm a little bit in these early stages before the percussion is coming in, try layering in some additional delay maybe on top of that lead so that we get a little bit of echoing going on. So this lead, this da 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 da, the groove of it seems just a little bit off compared to the groove of everything else. Try nudging those MIDI notes like a little bit forward and back. See if you can get them to gel a little bit more with that macro groove of your track. Overall, really cool vibe, really cool groove going on. Everything does sound like there might be a little too much reverb on it, so like the whole mix sounds like it's a little distant. If you can just reduce that reverb on a handful of the elements to allow some things to sit up front and then others to sit in back, you're gonna add like this really nice sense of depth and this front and back motion to an already, bouncy track. Would also agree with what Jono just suggested there. Yeah, make that kick more present, side chain that bass to it so that we get a little bit more groove going on in that low end. Awesome. The final thing that I'll say on this is you're just like borderline on the edge of having one too many melodic or harmonic elements playing at any given time. Because we have like that da-da-da, kind of like side up high note. We have our main lead, and then that bass line's kind of playing its own thing. And there might be I think there's like one other kind of mid-range layer that has its own pattern and melody to it. Because you've got a lot of their timing aligned, the sonic textures work out, I think you end up kind of being okay. But I do think that it might be a little bit stronger if just at any given moment you take out one of those harmonic layers and instead just use the arrangement of the song to swap out which one is playing at any given time. All right. So Tim C, we got you in the chat. So if your first time mixing and mastering, really awesome work for your first time going through a mix down. I think, the big thing to focus on is just creating a little bit more separation among those elements through the use of volume changes and then through a little bit more differentiation in the amount of reverb. So great work there, Tim. Let's give it up for him with I'm Serious. Up next, we've got Yaniv with Take Me Higher. So, as a lot of you guys know, Yaniv has been with us for a minute, and he recently took the plunge into the masterclass. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about that masterclass near the end, but I will say this, it has been awesome watching him grow. Like, the tracks that he's making now versus the tracks that he was making 4 to 6 weeks ago are night and day in terms of their kind of punch, their clarity, their rhythm, their sonic identity and stuff. So, let's for those of you that have been following him, you should be able to hear this difference right away. For the rest of us, let's just take a moment to, kind of appreciate what we've got going on here. So, Yaniv with Take Me Higher. Really nice kind of groove in that low end. I think you can maybe get a little bit more volume on that kick and a little bit more side chaining against the bass. It's not problematic where it stands, but it could just be a little bit stronger. I like that little gated reverb on the snare. That's a nice little touch. I think just like arrangement wise, it's not like you absolutely need it, but I think, you'd probably benefit from bringing in a percussion or a hi-hat a little bit earlier here. So one thing that I just really quickly want to call out here, I'm noticing occasionally that bass line is changing with the changes in this ARP pattern, but I would say that we want to make sure that that bass note is actually changing with each change in that ARP pattern, because that ARP pattern suggests a chord progression. Even though it's not playing like outright chords at any given moment, those broken up notes still infer a chord. So we want our bass line to be changing underneath that to match those inferred chords. Also, just seeing War God's suggestion for delaying those ARPs, I think that would be a nice little touch. Just a little bit of extra reverb and delay to help add that, tiny layer of interest, that little bit of extra groove. Yeah. And then a little bit more volume on those hi-hats too. Sounding really nice and full. I'm gonna take us up through this kind of final like build and drop. So awesome riding during that. I think we just need more volume coming out of those elements here so that it's just really loud and powerful right before that drop. But I think the riding and the arrangement of it works perfectly there. Very nice melody from that piano too. Cool. All right, Yaniv, so really awesome work. I think the biggest thing is just get that bass line changing with everything else. Get a little bit more power during some of these kind of like, weaker moments and getting some more energy out of things like those hi-hats. So really, really great work here. Let's give it up for Yaniv with Take Me Higher. Up next, we've got Chuzz and Buzz with Alternate Evaporate Bootleg 2021. Let's see what we've got. Alternate and Vaporate. That makes, way more sense there. So the groove of the snare is really nice. It doesn't quite match the groove of that kind of like tonal element that you've got going on the side. So just double check those, maybe zoom in, make sure those transients are lining exactly where you want them to be. Turn down my volume a second. So what's nice is you've got this really like dark vibe coming from the notes that I've chosen, and it does allow a little bit of tonal conflict. I think we might have just a little too much tonal conflict though. If you can even get one of those layers like the vocal to align a little bit more evenly with the tone of like your bass line there, I think it'll just make it that little bit stronger. And it's particularly noticeable actually at this moment, that vocal sounds like it's a little out of key. So I try re-pitching the vocal to kind of match the tone of the bass line. The energy and the drive and the groove of this is really, really strong. I am not quite getting as much separation among those elements as I would have liked, so try out some different processing on them. Like, maybe a certain saturator on your drums and a different type of saturation on your, harmonic elements and stuff, so that they're both beefed up, but beefed up separately so that they maintain their, differentiation. Awesome. Really nice vibe, especially in this moment. I love the extra energy that's coming from that new chord layer. And then right at this moment, I am noticing a little bit of tonal conflict as well. So right around that 2-minute mark, just dive in, check those MIDI notes, make sure you're staying in key and that all of your different layers are kind of playing the same set of notes. Awesome, guys. Let's give it up for Chuzz and Buzz with Alternate and Vaporate here. Really, really solid track. I absolutely completely agree, Rob. I still am digging this track for sure. Great track. Up next, we've got Danny Austin, who I believe I might have seen in the track or in the chat here with The Matrix. Let's see what we got. I'd say maybe just like a little bit more like lower mid body to this kick. Like we don't need to give away the full thump quite yet, but I think just a little bit more is going to help DJs and such be able to root it or, kind of match it into their track when they're mixing it in. So what's cool about this kick is I am getting that low end thump and that sub end that I need now. but then the high end of it seems kind of isolated. Like there's not as much in this kind of like low mid connecting that high end click to that low end body. And it kind of sounds like, as you know, the effect that I often get when using something like Bark of Dog. So if I have a kick drum and I put Bark of Dog on that, then we get that sub layer in, which can give us that power. But what's important is that there is that connecting space in the middle here. So Danny, what I'd recommend is either finding a different kick sample for that high end, or finding an additional kick sample to kind of like EQ and filter out just to that mid range, so that we get that kind of low mid extra power and body coming from the kick. Danny, great job with the harmonic content. I know in some of the previous ones we've been, trying to get the notes more closely aligned. All of your notes are working really well in this track. So yeah, great improvements. Really nice sonic textures too, for sure. Yeah, really great job with this track. This is a a good step up from your previous work. I think the next thing to focus on is like really just enhancing your mix, because I think the writing is where it needs to be. So, doing things like automating a little bit of reverb that swells up over time, maybe a couple of delay throws here and there. John was suggesting maybe a hi-hat underneath the kick to give the tail of the kick. Yeah, that could be a nice little texture to throw in for sure. Yeah, I think honestly you're in a great spot, Danny. The biggest thing to focus on is in that mix down, getting those elements to sound really thick and powerful. Right now, everything did seem just a little bit washy with reverb, so maybe dial back that reverb on some of your elements, add some saturation across the board on those harmonic elements, and just get that little bit of extra body. All right, let's give it up for Danny Austin here in the chat too. Really great track. Up next, we've got Nebuchad with Dark Angel. I see that you just dropped a comment, so I know for a fact you are here with us, Nebuchad. So definitely let me know if there's a moment you want me to be playing in here. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and get us started out, and let's see what we've got with Dark Angel. Lovely textures, love that rumble. You've got some high-end atmosphere mixed with that low-end body, some nice little mid-range hi-hat power and stuff. Really awesome intro here. Want me to look into the drop and see how to improve that? Let's take us a little closer. So right now, that snare texture might just be a little too full for the track. It has a lot of noise to it, so it's really filling up everything kind of from this mid-range all the way up to that high end. And as a result, we've taken away some of the emphasis of space from our hi-hats, from those atmospheres. So maybe just try a little bit of a more low-key snare, at least to start. The other thing that we could do to kind of improve this is right now you've got like basically chord textures or atmospheres that kind of come in and out, but I'm not hearing them really change as they do. So like for example, this like pulsing chord that you've got has been staying on the same chord this entire time. So maybe, switching it up so that that chord changes across different phrases, that's going to help add a little bit of extra evolution to this. Let's see what else we've got kind of going on through some of these other moments. So I noticed there was a little bit of atmosphere going on. I'd say across this section, if this isn't a full drop, keep a lot of that atmosphere going and make this a little bit of a smoother transition as opposed to kind of like a cut moment when that kick comes back in. Awesome. Guys, let's give it up for Nebuka with Dark Angel. There is quite a strong vibe. Really solid mix right out of the bat. I think the biggest thing, yeah, like I was saying, is we just need a little bit more evolution in some of the harmonic elements. So like things like changing chords. Maybe you get like a counter melody that kind of comes in and plays its own little riff in the background. But I think honestly the core of what you've got is working well there. Awesome. Guys, let's give it up for Nebuchad. Up next, we've got Breslin with Remember. Love the texture of that live string. I think we could benefit from some other form of atmosphere or noise or Foley, just because the string by itself doesn't quite give enough information about the environment.
I remember like it was yesterday.
I think that I'm pretty sure that vocal is out of key with the instrumental here. So try repitching that vocal so that it sits a little bit more in alignment with the rest of those chords.
Take it slow. Take it slow.
The groove and the structure of your writing works really, really well here. It really is like the big problem that I'm kind of noticing here, Spencer, is just that those notes aren't quite in key with each other. So I'd say start with your bass, match it up to the chords, make sure that that bass is playing the root note of your chords, which keep in mind isn't always the lowest note in your MIDI, it's whatever the root of that chord is. So if you have an inversion on your chords, then your root note is no longer the lowest note. So just, double check all of those, make sure that, the bass, the chords, any other instrumentals are all in key with each other, and then pitch that vocal so that it's sitting a little bit more evenly. Otherwise, the groove and the pattern of everything is working really nicely. So I'd say, the big thing, focus on getting those notes changed up, and I think you're going to be in a really good spot from there. At the very least, it will highlight any other changes that then kind of need to be made. I'm also liking Jono's suggestion here, maybe add a little bit more reverb, and then also maybe some delay to that vocal, because I agree, it did sound a little bit dry there. All right, great work with this one, Breslin. Up next, we've got Groovy G with Say Wanna House. Nice old school, just kind of classic house vibe and groove right from the start here. This is working nicely. Maybe a little bit more reverb on those atmospheres. It sounds just a little bit dry. I'm not quite getting the sense of depth and space that I want to out of them. So kind of a similar comment to what I've made on a couple of these other tracks. Right now, a lot of our content is in this like upper mid-range band. And granted, we've got a lot of nice width so that there is a lot of separation, but I'm not quite getting that low end of the track filled up in like that body the way I want it to. So maybe try just like pitching down some of those layers or finding some different drum samples that do allow you to just get a little bit more mid-range body. Now, admittedly, at this moment, this sounds great. That bass might be a little bit loud, but it's filling up that body that we were looking for. So as another option, potentially like just bring in a filtered version of that a little bit sooner. Agreed with Bart, agreed with Jono, like very dead mousey, great side chain pumping on here. This is working. On that like either string or horn, whatever that new layer is that just came in, bring that out in volume, add some reverb, some saturation, and maybe even a little bit of like upper mid boost to it. That should really kind of be filling up our space at this moment. And then I think right there we do need a heavier and thicker kick to like maintain a little bit of the energy. I think it's just gotten a little too quiet. Awesome, guys. Let's give it up for Groovy G with Say Wanna House here. Really awesome vibe, great sound selections. Up next, we've got MRP with Drum and Bass version 2. So if I remember correctly, I think we heard DNB V1 a few weeks ago on the stream, or at least I'd queued it up. I don't know if we ended up getting to it. But let's see what we've got with this one. Nice atmosphere and texture from the start. Let's just make it a little louder so that, you know, you can see that how loud this track gets later on. I bet if I were to skip kind of between these two sections, that would be just a little too quiet. So I'd say all throughout this intro, actually, let's bring up the volume of those instruments and atmospheres a lot. Love the use of the polyrhythm going on here. Really, really nice. I'd say like that drum pattern that I was playing in there, keep that going and fade it out as opposed to just suddenly stopping it. Really beautiful chords, great vibe. Again, I'm really digging that use of the polyrhythm. Good experimentation with that. And also, I love the evolution of the sound, like how you've played with that filter, some of the expression of it. That's keeping us hooked into it. One thing that I think that could take this to the next level is try changing up the notes themselves. So right now we're going like da 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 da. Every once in a while, like introduce a higher notes like da 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 da. Right, so that we get a degree of a melody introduced on top of that broken chord pattern. Awesome. Along with this filter in the high end, consider filtering out just a little bit of the low end. We don't want to lose all of the body there, but I think it did just, you know, maintain a little too much low end power. All right, really, really awesome vibe with this. Great, great track. Up next, we've got the Bells Brothers with Crazy V3. Very nice punchy kick. So I think the textures of these percussions are cool. The groove of them isn't quite perfectly aligned. It's just a little bit loose. So see if you can go in using something like the groove pool or just nudging those, you know, loops a little bit so that those transients are really tightly aligning with each other. I'd also love a lot of stereo width on those harmonic elements. Like that high-end guitar has a nice one, but a lot of the other mid-range elements are kind of overlapping. A little bit more reverb and perhaps some delay on that vocal would also be a really nice touch in there. So really love the pattern of this new layer that came in. It is just moving a little bit slowly and it dragged the groove a bit. So see if you can nudge it forward in the beat so it's a little bit more fast-paced. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, I think the biggest thing for this one is really just going to be about getting those different percussion layers and all that other sort of stuff to, you know, really gel together timing-wise. Because I think that the textures that you have, the writing that you have is where it needs to be. It just really comes down to groove for this one. All right, up next, we've got the Fourth Room with Horizon 46. I'm going to just keep it going. Let's see what we got. Lovely textures, lovely atmospheres. Kind of same as that previous track. Let's get those a lot louder. Excuse me, a lot louder right from the start, so that they're, you know, the listener hears them kind of right away. They don't have to like search for them with their ears to start. So really lovely vibe. I think the textures of all of your elements are really complementing each other. They have that kind of like slightly washed out feel to them. That little extra kind of crunch and noise in the drums is matching that washy feeling of the atmosphere. The risk is that they do share some overlapping textures, and I think we could get a little bit more differentiation and separation between our foreground drums and those kind of background atmospheres. So, for a couple of things. One, a little bit more volume on the drums and a little bit less volume on those atmospheres. And then just some very subtle side chaining on the atmospheres against the drums will help that drum just kind of cut through. Past that, it might be worth doing some subtle EQ changes to your atmospheres group and then to your drum group so that those drum groups have a little bit more emphasis in that, like, say, 3K to 7K range, and the atmospheres have a little bit reduction there to allow All right, so I should be back here. Hopefully this is working out. I'll just wait for a quick confirmation in the chat. So let's see what we've got. If we are indeed good to go. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up. Awesome. Cool. All right, so I do have to get going here pretty soon, which unfortunately, as you guys can see, means we won't have time to get through all of these. For those of you turning in, I know in particular, Aztec, you had called out, hey, you mind if I jump to this section in your track? I am sorry, unfortunately, we did just run out of time. So here's the deal, guys. I have your names written down. If you submit next week on next week's Feedback Friday thread, whether it's the same track or the next one, you are guaranteed going to be up first to get your feedback. So again, sorry if we didn't quite make it to you today, but we will. You are on the priority list for next week. Like I said, though, you do have to resubmit. So if you don't submit next week, you do kind of lose your spot in line there again. I want to make sure that, we're prioritizing people that are constantly tuning in, making sure that they're here for it. Now, granted, if you aren't able to tune in next week, and then the next time you tune in, you also happen to get missed, I do have a running list of how many times people get missed. So if I notice that you've gotten missed 2 or 3 sessions, you're also going to be bumped up to the priority list. So guys, rest assured, I am tracking everything, trying to keep this as fair as possible. But of course, we just have, plenty of submissions in only a limited amount of time. So with that, guys, let's get one last track in here. It's going to be Fat Freddy's Trinity here. And again, I promise you guys will be up next first for the remainder of you that have submitted that we haven't gotten to. So let's see what we got with Trinity. I'm going to skip ahead just because this is a little bit of a mix in. Maybe take us to this kind of final drop area. Awesome vibe here. A little bit more power on that kick would be nice, and maybe a little bit less volume on some of the atmospheres. And then definitely more volume on that lead and less reverb on it so that it's really up front, cutting through the mix, giving us that kind of power to drive forward the track. Love the notes and the harmonic content. Your actual writing here is spot on, so really great work. Maybe one more percussion layer that's coming in here to help give us just that extra little bit of compelling nature to the groove. I think what you've got there is all working. We just need that little extra. And I think what Bart just said, more power in the lower registries, is exactly what we need. So specifically, this percussion that would work well are going to be like low, mid congas, bongos, toms, that sort of stuff that can give us a little bit more of that body and then also a little bit more rhythm in that low, mid range. Awesome, guys. All right, let's give it up for Fat Freddy here with Trinity. And guys, with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up on the stream. So again, the rest of you guys, I promise you guys are up first next week, so long as you do resubmit. For everyone else, thank you so much for tuning in. Whether or not, your tracks were part of it, I hope you guys got some great stuff out of this. We are going to be doing these every single week moving forward here at the same time. That's Fridays at 2 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. So, if you're ever, kind of curious about that, just tune into the YouTube channel. It'll let you know when we're going live and that sort of stuff too. One little final comment here, guys. If you are interested in getting feedback on your tracks and you aren't yet part of the EDM Tips, family, I highly, highly recommend checking out one of the courses. We've got them all linked below, and you'll see, some of the core courses in this little group of 4, and then below we've got another link for the masterclass. I'd say if you're still kind of getting started out, feeling your way through production, start with some of those core courses. They're, a little bit less content, much more digestible, a little bit more on that kind of beginner end. And then once you're ready to take that next step, check out that link for the masterclass. It is a full 8-week program, and Will and I have built this out to mimic my entire year-long music production program that I attended a school for. So we're really trying to give you as much information as possible in a condensed amount of time. But of course, it requires that you guys are kind of up for that task. So if it's something you're interested in, please take a look at it. Let me know if you've got any questions. Will and I are super passionate about it. We have an absolute blast running this masterclass, and we're always looking to have, new students come in and get what they can out of it. So check out those links. We've got a nice little $200 discount code for you on that masterclass link as well. So if it's something you're interested in, just make sure you're using that link below so that you can get that discount. Guys, with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for, helping us through that little first hiccup with the mic and such. So stoked to be back at it. And guys, I'm already looking forward to next week. Have a great